Okay class, today we are going to start by reading our content and our language objectives, which we have right here. I'm going to go ahead and read them one by one, and we're going to review what we're going to be doing with each of them. So the first content objective says, I can identify word groups to review and define verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. Verbs, adjectives, and adverbs are all parts of speech that we've discussed already, and we are doing a review over them in order to make our writing better. And you are going to have to identify these words in sentences. Then the second statement says, I can label descriptive language in a mentor text. This means that today we're going to be looking at a paragraph from a book that we've read before called Suddenly Alligator, and we are going to label the words that are descriptive words or descriptive language in the text. The next I can statement for our content objectives is I can edit sentences by adding words that make it more descriptive. This means that you're going to have written sentences that you've already written before, and you're going to edit them or make them better by adding more descriptive words. Next we have our language objectives. The first one says I can read text to identify different parts of speech like nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. That means that you're going to be reading and finding words like adjectives, nouns, verbs, and adverbs. Next, we have I can discuss in groups how adverbs help create vivid descriptions in writing. This means that you're going to be talking to your partner in order to figure out what these words are doing to the text. And last but not least, we have I can add adverbs to improve description details in my writing. Again, this means that you're going to be getting writing that you've already written and editing it. All of these things are going to be accomplished by the end of our lesson, and we're going to put them up here so that way they're always displayed. Okay, so first we are going to look at a list of words. Today we are going to work on being grammar detectives. So we're going to get our grammar detective ready. Sorry. And we are magnifying glass. Sorry, I cannot think of a word. We're going to get our grammar detective magnifying glasses, and we're going to look at these tables. As you know, all tables need to have a title, but my tables, I have 4 tables here that have no titles. I need your help to help me identify what these words are. So let's go ahead and look at the first table. The first table has 4 words. They are mom, dog, Texas Tech, and books. So I want you to look at those 4 words and talk to your partner and tell them, what do you notice about these words? What do they have in common? Keep in mind that we're talking about parts of speech. Talk to your partner. Okay, good. I see people saying that they see people, places, and things. So out of the things that we've learned so far, what are words that describe people, places, or things? Good. Nouns describe people, places, or things. So I can say that the category for this table is nouns. Let's look at table number 2 now. This table has 4 words, and it says run, read, hope, and discuss. Talk to your partner and tell them what these words have in common. What are these words describing? Okay, good. I hear people saying that they're describing actions. Running is an action, reading is an action, as well as hoping and discussing. So, what are words that we know describe actions? Good. Verbs describe actions. So we're going to go ahead and label this table verbs. Great. You're doing a great job being a detective. Let's look at another list. Here we have 2 words in each of the bullet points. So we're going to focus on the dark words on this list. It says pretty girl, sharp pencil, purple hat, and huge house. Look at the dark words, pretty, sharp, purple, and huge. What are these words doing? Talk to your partner and tell them, what are these words doing? Good. I hear people saying that these words are describing the words in red. So this means that they're describing words. What do we know about describing words? What category do they go under? Good. Adjectives describe. So let's go ahead and label this table adjectives. Great. We have one last table. You're doing a great job. We're going to look again, and these are also multiple words per bullet. We're still looking at the dark words. So go ahead and read them with me. Walked slowly, ate quickly, studied quietly, and well-written sentence. Talk to your partner about what these words are doing. Okay, so I hear again people saying that they're describing. Good. What are they describing? Look at the red words one time. We've already talked about the red words. What do we know about the red words? We have walked, ate, studied. Okay, so I hear people saying that these are verbs. Yes, these are actions. So what are the black words doing to those words? Good, they're describing those words. They're describing how those actions are done. Good, good job. So I'm going to go ahead and label this adverbs because adverbs describe how actions are done. Good. So now that we've labeled all of these, we know that these are nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. These are the 4 word groups that we're going to be discussing today. Let's talk a little bit about definitions first. We've already reviewed these, but let's talk about them one more time. So first we have nouns. Nouns are words that describe a person, animal, place, or a thing. If you look at the first table, we have a person, an animal, a place, and a thing. All of these words are used to describe or label nouns. So let's look at the next word group we had was verbs. And like you said, verbs are words that describe the action that the noun is doing. So as you can see, nouns and verbs are related to each other because the verbs describe what the noun is doing. Ooh. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so our verbs are describing what the nouns are doing. So our verbs here are run, read, hope, and discuss. So these are all words that could describe actions that nouns do. Can you give me some examples of verbs? Okay, good. Walk. Another one is sleep. Good. And last one, jump. Good. Jump is another verb. What about nouns? Can you think of other nouns that we did not list earlier? Good. Girl is a noun. House is also a noun. Okay, the park is also a noun because it's a place. Good. So all of these words that we're using are describing nouns, and then earlier we were talking about verbs. Next, we're going to talk about adjectives. Adjectives are words that classify or describe nouns. So again, adjectives are also related to nouns. So as you can see here in our adjectives list, we had the adjectives in black, and then in red, what do you notice about all of these red words? Talk to your partner. We have girl, pencil, hat, and house. Good, so I hear everyone saying that those are nouns. You are correct. And what is the relationship between the nouns and the adjectives that we have here on this list? Good, so the adjective in black is describing the noun in red. So you can see that the definition that we have that says that adjectives are words that classify or describe a noun is correct because these words are describing the noun. Good job. So now we're looking at the last word group that we're looking at today, which is adverb. An adverb is a word that tells how, when, how much, how often, and where. They describe verbs, adjectives, and other adverbs. So as you can see, adverbs relate to all of these that we've talked about because they can describe either verbs or adjectives. And they are used to modify those words. They are adding more description to it. If you want your sentences to be descriptive so that way your reader can get a vivid picture of what you're writing, then you want to include these words into your sentences. All of these words, adjectives, adverbs, and verbs, are going to help brighten your sentences and make them more descriptive. Today we are working on descriptive writing with our parts of speech. So we want to make sure that we include these words in our writing in order to make it more descriptive. So like I said, today we're going to be reading. So we have this paragraph from the book that we read recently called Suddenly Alligator. So let's go ahead and read the paragraph together. I reached for the pliers behind me awkwardly. The alligator bit the pliers out of my hand and swallowed them greedily. I was sure he would swallow me next. But then I saw the tree. I raced to it and began to climb it clumsily. The alligator was right behind me. He lunged at me, growling loudly. He caught me. My foot was in his mouth. I pulled desperately. And then my shoe came off. The alligator sniffed the air painfully. He fell on his back. I climbed down, picked the flower, and laid it on him gently. Can you almost make a picture in your head of what we just read? Yes, I can almost imagine the alligator running after this kid and grabbing his ankle and then smelling his smelly shoe and then falling over and dying. So this author did a great job with descriptive writing. He made sure that the words that he used in the sentence gave you an idea of what he was writing, so that way you can picture it in your head. That is the goal that we have for today. We want to make sure that our writing is descriptive, and in order to do that, we are going to use those words. So we're going to keep our magnifying glasses out to keep on being grammar detectives, and we are going to read through the paragraph again little by little in order to find these words in his paragraph, so that we can identify how he did it. Whenever we find all those words, we'll talk about them a little bit, and then we'll be able to understand more how they help make our writing more descriptive. So I'm going to be using highlighters in order to do this. We are going to be labeling our verbs, our adjectives, and our adverbs in the sentences. We've gotten practice with nouns, so I'm not going to label those. I will go ahead and underline them for you. So let's see, verbs, the paper's in pink for verbs, so let's go ahead and say that verbs are pink. Then our adjectives are orange, but I don't have an orange highlighter, so yellow will be for adjectives. And then I have blue, and we can do blue for adverbs. And then, like I said, I'll go ahead and underline the nouns, so we can label that too. Okay, so I'm going to do the first few sentences for you, and then you are going to help me do them. So first I do, and then we do together. First sentence says, I reached for the pliers behind me awkwardly. Let's go through first and find the nouns. So pliers is a noun because that's a thing, and I know that nouns are people, places, things, or animals. And I do not see any other nouns in my sentence, do you? Good. That's all the nouns. So now let's see, what about verbs? Okay, so I hear reached. Is there any other verbs in the sentence? Okay, good. So next are adverbs. Our adverbs are describing how, when, how much, how often, or where. So we're looking for an adverb that is modifying verbs, adjectives, or other adverbs. So since I know that this is a verb, let's see. How is the boy reaching for the pliers? Good, he's reaching for them awkwardly. So since I know that adverbs modify either a verb, an adjective, or another adverb, I have to see if I have an adverb, then I must have one or the other. Here I see that this adverb is modifying a verb, reach, because I know that he reached for them awkwardly. Okay, do we see any adjectives? Okay, behind is telling us about where the pliers are. Good. Okay, next sentence. The alligator bit the pliers out of my hand and swallowed them greedily. Okay, so first I'm going to go through with nouns. An alligator is an animal. The pliers, again, are still nouns. Good. And hand is also a noun. And that is all the nouns that I have in my sentence. Next, I'm going to go with my adjectives this time. And do you see any adjectives? No, there's no adjectives in this sentence. So let's go ahead and see, are there any verbs? Okay, so bit is telling me the action of what the alligator, the noun, is doing. Good. And swallowed, again, is telling me the action of what the alligator, our noun, is doing. And that is all the verbs in the sentence. So now I need to look for an adverb. Is there an adverb that is describing how the alligator bit? The alligator bit the pliers out of my hand. No, there is no adverb describing how the alligator bit. Let's see if there's an adverb describing how he swallowed them. He swallowed them greedily. Okay, so greedily is telling me how the alligator swallowed those. Good. I'm going to do one more sentence with you, and then you're going to help me. So let's see. I was sure he would swallow me next. Oh, that was actually one of her sentences that was more simple. Okay. I was sure he would swallow me next. Okay, so I don't see me and I are people, so those could be nouns. Those are actually other parts of speeches. So let's see if there's a verb. What is the verb in this sentence? Was, good. It's from the verb to be, because verbs don't always have to be action verbs. They can also be a state of being, and to be is a state of being. Oh, good. I'm glad you noticed. So I was sure is a verb phrase. Good. Would, good, is also a verb. And swallow. Would swallow is a verb phrase. Good. I'm glad you noticed that these go together. Okay, next sentence says, but then I saw the tree. Tree is a noun. And what about verbs? Good. So saw is the verb in this sentence. And like you see, there are no adverbs describing, and there are no adjectives describing in those sentences. Okay, so now we're going to work together on the rest of the paragraph, so we do this together. I'm going to read it, and then you're going to help me identify. I raced to it and began to climb it clumsily. Help me find the verbs in the sentence. Okay, good. Jacqueline, I heard you say raced. Raced is an action verb. Okay, I hear Matthew saying began to climb. That is also a verb phrase. Good. Is there any other verbs? Talk to your partner and tell them, do you see any other verbs? Good, there are no more verbs in this sentence. Do we see adjectives? Good, I do not see any adjectives in this sentence either. So let's go ahead and find if there are any adverbs. Are adverbs, tell your partner, what are adverbs modifying? What can they modify? Good, so I heard people say they can modify verbs, adjectives, or other adverbs. So what do we have in this sentence that could be modified? You're right, verbs are able to be modified in this sentence. So let's see. Do we have a word that is modifying or telling us, describing how he saw the tree? No. What about here? Is there a word that is describing how he raced to the tree? No, there is no word, so that means there's no adverb modifying race. What about began to climb? Do we know how or how often or where or when or how much he began to climb this tree? Good. I hear people saying clumsily. What part of speech is clumsily? Great. Good job. Clumsily is an adverb. What word is being modified by clumsily? I want you to talk to your partner and tell them what is being modified by clumsily. I want you to use your words that we've been talking, our key vocabulary. So you can use verbs, nouns, adjectives, or adverbs. And I have a sentence frame for you. So here we have a sentence frame and it says, the author used the adverb blank to modify the verb blank. So here, what is the adverb we're talking about? Good. Clumsily is the adverb we're talking about. So you can say to your partner, hey partner, the author used the adverb clumsily to modify the verb blank. Talk to your partner and figure out what it goes in this blank. Good. I hear people say climb or begin to climb, and you're correct because clumsily is giving me a description of how he began to climb it. Let's go through the next sentence. The alligator was right behind me. This is another one of the simple ones. So alligator is a noun, you're correct. What else do you see? Tell me what you see in the sentence. Look at the key vocabulary and see if you can find any of those in the sentence. Okay, right behind could be describing. So we could do adjective. Okay, so behind is describing where the alligator is. Good. So what about right? What do we know about adverbs? Can adverbs modify only verbs, or can they modify other parts of speech? Good. So adverbs can also modify adjectives. So what do you think about the word right? Is it an adverb? Yes, you're right. The word right is describing the adjective behind. It tells us where. It gives us a better description of where the alligator is. We could say that the alligator is behind, and I can imagine the alligator is way back there. But when you say right behind me, this gives me a better description to tell me that it is right there. I know where the alligator is. Good job. Let's look at the next sentence. He lunged at me, growling loudly. What do you see in this sentence? Okay, so I heard somebody saying a verb. What is the verb that you see? Lunged. Okay, good. Do we see any other verbs in this sentence? Growling. Good. Is there any other verbs in this sentence? No, there are not. What about adjectives? No. Good. What about adverbs? Do you see an adverb that is modifying one of these two verbs? Good. I heard people saying loudly, and loudly is an adverb. So go ahead and underline with me. Loudly as an adverb. Okay, so what word is being modified by loudly? So again, let's pull out our sentence. And it says, the author used the adverb blank to modify the verb blank. So talk to your partner and figure out what goes in the blanks. Good. I heard people say that the author used the adverb loudly to modify the verb growling. This is correct. Is there an adverb that is modifying the word lunged? No, you're right, there is not. Let's look at the next sentence. He caught me. So what do you see in the sentence? Okay, good. I heard a verb, and the verb is, right, caught. Okay, and this is a short sentence, so it doesn't look like we have much to look for. Let's look for verbs in the next sentence. My foot was in his mouth. Okay, good. Was is the verb in this sentence. Okay, good. I heard somebody say that foot is a noun. So the verb was is describing the noun foot. Because we know that Verbs are words that describe the action that a noun is doing for my definitions up here. Good. What else do we see? Let's look at the next sentence. I pulled desperately. What do you see in this sentence? Okay, we heard another verb. So what is the verb? Good. Pulled. And what else do you see? Is there an adverb? This is a short sentence, are you sure? Okay, good. So there is an adverb. What is it? Desperately. So again, use your sentence stem and tell your partner what verb is being modified by the word desperately. Good. So you can use this against the stem and say the author used the adverb desperately to modify the verb pulled. This is helping describe how he was pulling for his foot. We're almost done. A couple more sentences. And then my shoe came off. Okay. So the word came is a verb. Oops. And shoe is the noun that is being performing this action. Good job. Okay, let's look at the next sentence. The alligator sniffed the air painfully. Do you see a verb in the sentence? Good. The word sniffed is the verb in the sentence. And who is sniffing? Who is the noun who is performing this action? Good. The noun is alligator again. Good job. Okay, is there anything else in this sentence? Okay, I hear people saying the adverb. And what is the adverb? Painfully. Good job. Painfully is the adverb. Can you tell me what it is modifying? Okay, so I hear people saying that it's modifying a verb. What verb? Sniffed. Good. So painfully is modifying sniffed. Now, I want you to look at that sentence. The alligator sniffed the air painfully. So we know that adverbs tell us either how, when, how much, how often, and where, right? So which one of those is this adverb doing? Look at this sentence stem that we have here. It says the adverb blank tells me either how, when, how much, how often, or where. So I want you to talk to your partner and fill in the blank for this and select one of the answer choices. Okay, good. So the adverb painfully tells me, good, how. Because now that I see that he was sniffing painfully, I know how the alligator was sniffing the air. Good job. We have a couple more sentences. He fell on his back. Good. So I heard somebody say that they see a verb. What is the verb? Fell. Do we see anything else on this sentence? Okay, good. So next sentence. I climbed down, picked a flower, and laid it on him gently. Can you help me find the verbs in this sentence? Okay, good. Climbed. What else? Picked. Good. The boy is picking a flower. And laid. Good job. Laid is the last verb that I see. Is there anything else? Let's see. We haven't seen many adjectives. Do you see an adjective in this sentence? Okay, good. Down is telling you, describing how the climbing is being done, so it can be an adjective. What about adverbs? What is the adverb in this sentence? I climbed down, picked the flower, and laid it on him gently. Good. I heard gently, so let's go ahead and underline gently as our adverb. So again, let's use our sentence stems. The author used the adverb gently to modify the verb. We have 3 verbs in this sentence. This is modifying climbed, picked, or laid. Good. It's modifying laid because I know that he laid the flower gently. So let's do the sentence stem again. The adverb gently tells me how, when, how much, how often, or where. Talk to your partner and figure it out. How. Good. So now that we have our whole paragraph filled, you can see that this author used a lot of descriptive language. Do you see all the colors in my paper? That should be all the colors that you see in your mind. This is drawing a picture for you. Now you're able to better understand what is being happening in the story because he has so much descriptive language. So that is what you want to do in your writing. You want to make sure that if you include these words all in your sentences, then you have a better chance of being good at descriptive writing because your reader is going to be able to better picture what you are writing. So last week we wrote some paragraphs and we're actually going to modify them. We have your instructions. In case you need to remember, I'll put them up on the board for you. So first, you are going to read your paragraph. Second, you will identify all nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs with different colors. So hopefully, by the end, your paper will look kind of like the author's, but it might not at first because we didn't know that we had to include all these words, right? But the goal is to make your writing more descriptive, so we want to include those words. And that means that you're going to edit your text. You're going to edit your text by adding descriptive words. This means that you're going to add more bright verbs, more exciting action words. You can add more adjectives to describe nouns. And you can add adverbs that describe how your verbs are being performed or more about your adjectives. Okay? So go ahead and get your sentences or your paragraphs, sorry. But before that, let's review our content objectives because we want to make sure that we're able to do all of these things through the lesson. The first one said, I can identify word groups to review and define verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. When in the lesson did we do this? Okay, good. So whenever we had those lists and we had to label each of the tables, we were identifying the word groups and we're reviewing and defining what verbs, adjectives, and adverbs are. Because whenever I told you what those words were, I would ask you to figure out what they had in common. When you were doing that, you were inductively giving me a definition of the word groups, and then we reviewed them. So good, we can say that we did that. So let's go ahead and put a check mark. Next we have, I can label descriptive language in a mentor text. When did we do this? Okay, good. I heard somebody say that whenever we went through and labeled all of this. So good, we were labeling descriptive language. Next, edit sentences by adding words to make it more descriptive. Have we done this already? No, we have not, but that is what this activity is for. You will edit sentences by adding words to make it more descriptive. So your paragraph at the end should be very descriptive. So we'll put a half check mark because we're almost there. Language objectives. I can read text to identify different parts of speech like nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. Did you do that? Good. So again, whenever we did this, we were doing that. We were able to read it and identify the parts of speech. Next, we discuss in groups how adverbs help create vivid description in writing. So whenever you talk to your partners, you guys figured out how this was describing and what was being modified. And I heard a lot of people talking, for example, whenever it said that he laid the flower on him gently, you were saying how it describes how he laid the flower. So good, you describe how the adverbs can give description. And last but not least, add adverbs to improve description details in my writing. So in order for me to have a checkpoint on this, then you have to complete the next activity. So go ahead and start by yourself, get your paper, and start reading and labeling.